Welcome to Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizers. Still going with Dan Zeus, the old Zeuser. Not a whole lot to rank this week as we are down to two teams, but still, you had to rank those two teams, Dan. And which one would be? Oh, it's the Bengals!
Spoiler alert!
The Bengals are your number one team in power rankings. To heck with what consensus may be in certain spots across this fine nation of ours, the Zeuser, Dan Zeus, has the Bengals as your number one team. There you look at our updated bracket with the updated rankings. Dan, before we get into the conference championships, before we get into the Super Bowl matchup, huge news. Earlier today, it is now official. Tom Brady is retiring after an illustrious, wildly successful, arguably the greatest career in the history of the National Football League. Your thoughts?
I think it's a unbelievable career that will never be matched because the thing, and this is as a Jets fan who suffered for 20 years with Brady, and then he went to a new team and then ended up winning another title. He never got old. He never fell off. He never truly declined. And I think I'll remember all of the titles, obviously, and the tremendous success that went on for more than 20 years, but just that he went out on his own terms and he never got old. Even as he aged, he never got old.
It rarely happens in this game, in this sport. It is unkind to those that age. Usually the drop is precipitous. In the case of Tom Brady, it wasn't. He led the league in touchdowns. He led the league in yards this last season. He led his team from a 24-point deficit to tie a game and nearly get a win in the divisional round. What I'll remember most is how many careers he changed, how many legacies he changed with those 7 Super Bowl titles, with the level of play that he had through his 22 seasons. I mean, you think about Peyton Manning. You know, he got knocked out of the playoffs 4 times by the Patriots. Just last year, Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau. Tom Brady ends up throwing 3 touchdowns, thwarts their path, and perhaps the second Super Bowl championship for Aaron Rodgers, which would then put him in that elite class. You think about Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons and the 28-3. That's Tom Brady authoring that comeback. Russell Wilson could have 2 were it not for Brady on that penultimate drive and that 4th down throw that got them the go-ahead touchdown. Like, there are so many different players that look at time. Jake Delhomme threw for 350 and 3 touchdowns for the Panthers.
Should have been a legend.
Right? The Panthers could have a Super Bowl title. It is remarkable how much damage this man did to the rest of the league.
And then you think of things like, how frustrating it was, how he kept others from winning titles. You think about things like Deflategate and Spygate, him tied to the Patriots that way. He was a guy a lot of people love to hate, but I think a lot of that is going to kind of fade away now as he retires and you look at the bigger picture of it all. And I thought it was interesting on Sunday when Patrick Mahomes, who a lot of people believe has the potential to end up being a top 5 player all time. He has that type of ability. He's shown that, the success of the team and individually. To see him kind of melt down in the second half of that game, I thought of Tom Brady. I said Tom Brady never did that. And that's what makes Brady special, how unique he was. There were just things about him that I don't think we'll ever see again. And I think he is like a Ruthian figure. I think he's like a Jordan-esque figure that if you were lucky enough to see him play, you hated it if you were going against him and your team was going against him. But with time, you're going to be able to say, all right.
I saw the best.
Yeah.
Yes, this quarterback is great. Don't get me wrong. But you have no idea what Tom Brady did and the difference between Tom Brady and everybody else. And you know what? I think it's also worth pointing out his supporting cast and the players that he did it with, making household names out of Kevin Folk and James White and Rashae Caldwell and Deion Branch, and just whatever he had to go into battle with was good enough. Wes Welker and Danny Amendola were good enough. Julian Edelman was good enough as his lead receiver. It never mattered. And I think that's the difference. You know, our friends at Move the Sticks, Daniel Jeremiah, always talks about trucks and trailers. You know, are you a trailer that the team is pulling along to success, or are you the truck that is driving your team to that success? There is no question, and good for him for being able to separate from Bill Belichick for those 2 seasons and determining if there was ever any question, is this part of the Patriot way? Is he part of the system? No. It is Tom Brady that was the truck this entire time.
And I think that was incredibly, I agree, important to him to show that he could do it without Bill, and then to win a title, not just to thrive in Tampa for a couple of years, but to win a championship. And you have Belichick now, and hey, listen, everybody was talking about it. He releases that statement on Tuesday morning, and Belichick's not mentioned. The Patriots aren't mentioned. I think that is one of his greatest achievements ever, that he was able to say, leave. That's you. This is me. Right. I did it on my own.
Well, let's get to, as we look back, we now look forward because we have got ourselves a Super Bowl 56 matchup that we could not be more excited about. The Bengals had not won a playoff game in over 3 decades, and now they will be competing for a Lombardi for the first time since 1988. The Rams, of course, were just there in 2018, thwarted by those Tom Brady-led Patriots, as a matter of fact. So we got our Bengals-Rams showdown. Before we get to how these two teams match up, let's get to how they got here and what you saw in the Bengals-Chiefs AFC Championship game.
I thought it was remarkable how this team was about to be blown out of that building. And you saw what happened with getting the stop at the end of the half and then just finding a way. And you got to give a lot of credit to Lou Amaruno, that defense, of course, Zach Taylor, for finding a way to slow things down. And just, this is a team that feels like Destiny's darling. Like you say, you flip a coin and figure out who's 1 and 2 in the power rankings at this point, because you could absolutely make the case for the Rams. But don't you just sense there's something special going on with the Bengals right now?
Well, I think it's very similar to the way we feel about Patrick Mahomes. You know, don't you dare doubt Joe Burrow. Don't. If he's on the field, he seems to figure out a way to win games. You mentioned it, and I think there's so much second guessing. Oh, kick the field goal at the end of that. Why not go in with momentum? You're up 2 scores, 14. It's, well, remember, it was 21-3. So now it's 21-10. It's a 2-score game. You kick the field goal. It's still a 2-score game. So I understand what they were trying to do here. Let's make it 27-10, and let's really put it out of reach and make them feel like, wow, we had this slow start. We really let it get away. Because even if you kick the field goal, they go into the half and say, hey, this is a 2-score game. This is not that big of a deal. We have overcome this. So I understand what Andy Reid and the Chiefs were thinking there. And good on the Bengals for making good, for adjusting their defense. You mentioned their defensive coordinator, Amaruno, and what they did. They rushed 3, they dropped 8, and it's the exact same conversation we were having about the Chiefs when we discussed whether or not people had cracked the code, and Patrick Mahomes was unwilling to take what the defense was giving him, which is really weird, Dan, because he was doing it the entire first half, and then all of a sudden he loses his mind in the final 2 quarters.
And that's, I'll always remember the game for Cincinnati continuing their magical run, but what will really stick with me more than anything else is Patrick Mahomes and the way he fell off in this big moment, because he had never done that before. He had always been a player, last year in the Super Bowl against Tom Brady's Bucs, he got beat up and got thrashed, but that wasn't on him. That was a protection issue. In this game, they lost in large part, because Mahomes kind of melted down. And I just, that's when you think, wow, what is going on?
And he had melted down the first half of the season. Remember, he had more interceptions than the previous 3 seasons combined.
When you watch those games, there was a lot of tip balls. I know he wasn't as sharp as he had been at his apex, but there was something different. He was on tilt. They had, I think, 88 total yards in the second half and overtime of that game.
He had more pirouettes in the second half than he did completions.
And by the way, Travis,
and I'm not kidding, by the way.
On that third down, before the game-tying field goal by Butker, Travis Kelce flashes open at the goal line. And Mahomes was, I don't know if he was seeing ghosts, but Cincinnati Bengals, there's something special going on there.
Now, there was also an underdog story happening in Los Angeles. Let's not forget, even though the Rams were considered the favorite, they had lost 6 consecutive contests to the 49ers, and they found themselves in a 10-point hole in the fourth quarter.
Right, and I think a lot of people thought, okay, this game, once it got to 17-7, and you had San Francisco was playing with so much confidence on defense, and the crowd was into it, and there was a lot of red in SoFi Stadium. You just got the feeling that this was going to be a game that was going to slip away, and the Rams were going to lament it and be like, well, this is the way it is. The San Francisco 49ers own the Rams. And yet, everything turned on its ear, and you just have to – I'll always think of that Aaron Donald shot on the sideline of him gathering the players around him and just – and there it is, and leading them and saying, basically, this is a guess, but I think I can piece it together. We're not giving up another point. We are taking this game over. And you know what happened, Money? They took the game over. They were the ones that forced the pressure that led to the big interception that sealed a trip to the Super Bowl.
So here's what's interesting, right? We just talk about and this is the final drive. We just talk about Patrick Mahomes taking what the defense gave him. The defense was asked to do that. This is what Raheem Morris asked his defense to do. Hey, I know you are a wrecking machine of a pass rush. Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to play horizontal at the line of scrimmage. We are not going to let this team run the ball the entire game. And for a team that had dominated time of possession, dominated yardage, dominated first downs, dominated the rush game, they did nothing. The Rams had more yards. They had 10 more minutes in time of possession. The only thing they couldn't do was punch it in. And then when it came time to flip the switch, okay, go get them. Final 2 drives, 6 plays punt, 3 plays punt, or final 3 drives, and the interception. It was a brilliantly orchestrated defense by Raheem Morris for that specific situation, and I cannot give them enough credit for pulling it off.
And we have to give credit to Matt Stafford
100%.
because the Rams, all throughout the regular season, there were moments when they would take a punch in the mouth from a big-time team or a contender, and they would go down. And when the postseason began, it was like, maybe is this who the Rams are? They're kind of like the Cowboys, where they're just going to get knocked off when the competition jumps up. Stafford, who had some ups and downs, but was generally very good in the regular season, he really has lifted his game. And you're right, the Bengals are the story that everyone is hooked on right now, and rightfully so. But the Stafford story is pretty damn good.
It is. And look, it could have been completely different if Jaquiski Tartt doesn't drop an interception. And I know there's still 10 minutes left in that game, but it just felt like that was a tipping point. And you credit Matthew Stafford for bouncing back from that and making him pay and finishing that drive to get the 3 points there. But the one thing that may be overlooked is everybody's like, oh, he should have had 2 interceptions, which I understand. I think that is a fair criticism of him. 11 of 18 on third down. 8 of those were passing third downs. So the money down, when he had to extend drives, when he had to keep time of possession in his favor, he was able to deliver. And there's no doubt that he was able to do that. So now let's look at the Super Bowl, right? So now here's our matchup, Bengals versus Rams. Your initial thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. You look at the roster and you say, okay, roster versus roster. I like the Rams. I do. I mean, I think they have stars in big places. They have, as we just talked about, they have now gotten over the demons that kind of haunted them in the regular season. They're not afraid of the moment. And yet,
Joe Burrow. I mean, that's really all you say is Joe Burrow.
It feels like it's oversimplifying it, but it's not.
What did we do with Tom? I'm not saying he's Tom. I'm just saying there is something about this individual. He is the #1 overall pick for a franchise that has been rudderless. And yet they're in the Super Bowl 2 years later. It just doesn't happen. No. So it's changing the culture. It's changing the attitude. It's changing the belief that your team has that you can win games when you're down 21-3 against Kansas City, a team that had been to 4 straight AFC Championship games and potentially 3 straight Super Bowls. That's what a player like Joe can do. The other thing, when it comes to the Rams on that front, think about Jeffrey Simmons. And I think about the Tennessee Titans at 9 sacks and 12 hits. And Aaron Donald's even better than Simmons on the interior of that line and how leaky it can be. But then you think about Joe Burrow getting knocked down 9 times and getting up 10. And that's what makes it so compelling. By all accounts, the way this is set up, I think it should heavily favor the Rams. But defensively, look, the Rams can't do what they did to the 49ers and say, hey, Jimmy Garoppolo beat us. We're committing to stopping the run. Okay, you want to stop Joe Mixon? Well, now you got Boyd, Higgins, Uzomah, and, of course, Jamar Chase to contend with and Joe Burrow. If you want to stop that, then you got your 6'2", 240-pound running back that's going to come right through the middle of your defense like so many teams have done with the Rams this year. And yet, it's such a great matchup.
It's great, and it is such a big step up from Garoppolo, but there were weapons around Garoppolo as well. I think about you got Jalen Ramsey here, who you imagine.
Ramsey versus Chase. Maybe that neutralizes it. Joe Mixon, I kind of see he's going to struggle to run the ball because the Rams are very difficult to run against. So then it does become, is Joe Burrow going to be able to find the other players, the T. Higgins of the world, Uzomah if he's playing, and make those plays? And you would think after 9 sacks in the divisional playoffs that the Rams defensive line can ruin this game, but Burrow is an X factor because he's just feeling it. That's again, it's the only thing we can say. It sounds stupid and it's oversimplified, but that's the difference. If Joe Burrow steps onto that field to play that Super Bowl, there is that Mahomesian, Bradyian, Rogerian feeling to this game. I think that.
Maybe not Rogerian.
That's a great point. Terrible in the playoffs. When we return.
Sniper fire.
When we return, we track the power rankings path of our conference champions. How far did they fall? How high did they soar? What was the road they took to Super Bowl 56? We'll find out next.
one game away. Biggest days of our life right now finna go down today. We're 4 quarters away. We're playing the game we dreamed about for a little bit, man. I gotta get mad. Pressure's on them. Another thriller. Let's go. This is the moment. This is why you're here. Don't let up. We ain't done. Let's go. Put the camera on me, dog. We're not done. I swear we're not. Get him. Get him. Let's finish it. Let's finish it. Let's go to the bowl, baby! Let's go to the bowl! I'm going to the show, baby. We're going to the show. It's a Super Bowl. Oh, man. Got a little more work to do.
All right, back here on Power Moves, let's trace the path. Let's walk it, Dan, from the preseason to where we are today.
You ever come home from work and your wife jumps into your arms and just congratulates you? You say, got more work to do. It's only Wednesday. Got to get to the hump day.
Every day.
Get through that hump day.
Every day. That's how we do it every day. Hey, you know what? That's how you keep it strong.
Matt and Kelly.
My dog attacks me is what happens when I come home. How did the Rams get here? Let's get a look at the path.
Oh, I like this. All right, let's pull up the chart here. And this takes us from week 1, where they started at number 6. They got all the way up to number 1, as you can see there. Week 4. And then they kind of were somewhat consistent, as you can see. They dipped as low as 11. They had the Matt Stafford, if you recall, and the Rams had that November funk where they had a couple back-to-back.
Titans, 49ers, Packers.
And there was a lot of primetime island games. A lot of people got eyes on them and said, "Ooh, these guys are weak, they're soft." And then they began their rise, obviously. I think coming out of the wild card round, I should have had them higher. I had them at 8. That is a regret I have that I have to live with, Money.
Yes, you do.
But now here they are. They've proven everybody wrong. What do you think about that chart?
Well, here's what I think. And it's right in the middle of the season there. And I hope the general managers and team presidents and team owners are watching. And why wouldn't they? It's power rankings, for goodness sake.
Of course they're watching.
Kudos to Sean McVay, Les Snead, and Kevin Demoff, team president, for green lighting the additions. Be bold. Stop running your franchise traditionally. I don't want to say like cowards, but go out and get it. Trade draft picks. Oh, we can't trade away the future. A second and a third for Von Miller. Did you see what Von Miller did in this postseason run? He is a wrecking machine. Don't be afraid of adding Odell Beckham Jr. to the locker room. If it doesn't work out, you cut him and you send him on the way. Instead, the guy's just catching a ton of touchdowns, 100-plus yards in the conference championship. Kudos to those 3 individuals for doing something far too many franchises are afraid to do.
And you know why sports are funny is if they're down 17-7 in the fourth quarter and they lose 17-14.
You mortgage your future,
we're
you
having
idiots.
a totally different conversation. But that's sports. That's the way it works.
Exactly. All right, this is a much better path. Here we go. Let's look at the Bengals.
Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. All the way down to number 30. Now, in my defense, I will tell you this.
For that, there is no defense.
Absolutely there is. Because
it's not tournament.
I would imagine if we went back to our Week 1 Power Ranking show, you probably weren't pushing back too hard. You know why?
I was. I picked them to win the division.
So let's remember where they were. Joe Burrow coming off a total reconstruction of his knee. All the reports through the summer were, we're not even sure if he's ready week 1. Everyone was super concerned about the offensive line, which was mostly ignored. They went and got Jamar Chase, who, by the way, had struggled throughout the summer. And then you have to remember what we thought of the AFC North going into the year, that it was the best division in football. So the path there, they start down there by week 5, Money. They're in my top 15. By week 10 or 11, they're in the top 10. So they kind of put it together quickly. And like you were saying earlier, this doesn't happen often.
No.
This wasn't supposed to be this quick.
No, and look, there were people that were questioning whether or not Joe Burrow would pull an Eli Manning and demand to go to a different franchise, that he did not want to go to the Bengals, that he was not going to stake his career and his reputation, because so much of this is circumstance and success is circumstantial. Not when you have someone like Joe Burrow. Yes, this is BASS, the Burrow Admiration Society. But that's how special he is. And remember, like, people, okay, you're the number 1 overall pick. I mean, really, how much of an underdog can he be? This is someone who had to leave Ohio State because he lost the starting job to Dwayne Haskins. And good on him for giving it back to the Buckeyes that tried to claim him as the first Ohio State quarterback to start a Super Bowl and say, no. I am an LSU quarterback. I had to transfer. I had to go to the Bayou. I had to get down into the purple and the gold and GEAUS Go Tigers
Dwayne,
in
I
order
know
to
it
get
worked
here.
out well, but you picked Dwayne Haskins over Joe Burrow.
So, huzzah to you, Joe Burrow. Huzzah to you for sticking through and bringing Ohio a winner and getting that squad to Super Bowl 56. Could not be more excited. We keep saying it for this Super Bowl. I think it is going to be one of the all-time greats, and it is a big part, in big part.
Sell it,
that
money.
One individual.
Earn that paycheck.
Tom Brady made it official. He is retiring after 22 seasons in the NFL. When we return, we will give him the power rankings treatment. A power ranking of his greatest moments over that 22-year career is next.
He gone.
Step into the throw, okay?
You're in the right hands.
Gotta play tougher, harder, tougher, everything. All week we go patience, patience. There was no patience. He just ran.
I said I was gonna get you down. I said I was gonna get you down. Yeah! Let's do it, baby!
Gronk, did you take the middle? Get over here. Come on now. Gotta do better, O. Hey, one play at a time.
Wilson, quick throw. And it's good. Intercepted. Intercepted by Malcolm Butler.
I love you guys.
Love you, baby.
Well, a remarkable career, one that will never be duplicated, replicated, or likely even sniffed when it comes to what Tom Brady was able to do. 7 Super Bowl championships in 22 seasons. And Dan, we are putting the power rankings spin, giving it the power ranking treatment here. The greatest. In your opinion, I will weigh in and likely agree, because you could pick any 5 plays from Tom Brady and feel pretty darn good about him. There's so many to choose from. But some of the more pivotal moments in Tom Brady's career.
Yeah, most defining. When you think about Brady and his career, what are the things that you can't leave out of the discussion? We'll start with number 5, where it all began, January 2002, the divisional playoffs against the Raiders. It is the tuck rule game. And this was kind of where the legend began, Money, right? This is a play that will go down in infamy for Raiders fans. It gave the Pats new life. They ended up upsetting the Rams in the Super Bowl. They were like what the Bengals are now, and it all starts with this little good bit of fortune.
And I think, it's so important, because we say it all the time, but football is so circumstantial. And if that's a fumble, then Tom Brady coughs up a championship game. The Raiders go to the Super Bowl. John Gruden's their coach. Maybe they win. John Gruden stays their coach for the next 5 years or so, and they become a powerhouse that maybe stands in the way of Tom Brady and the Patriots. I think it's such a great nugget to share. Adam Vinatieri kicks that field goal in an absolute snowstorm, a low line drive, long field goal to put them in And now the myth and the path starts, and it's all because of some good fortune.
Final game at Old Foxborough Field. All right, number 4, you got to hit the 2007 season. It ended horrifically with the loss to the Giants in 18-1 and all that, but you cannot look past what they did in the regular season. They went 16-0, and it came down to this final game of the regular season. It was on NFL Network. It was a huge deal, and Brady connects with Randy Moss for his 50th touchdown of the year. That was a record at the time. Moss had his 23rd TD. That was a record. And they did something that no one's ever done before or since, go 16-0.
One of the things about this particular season is it's sort of, it allowed Brady to come out of I don't want to say he was ever tagged as a game manager, but he was part of a system. And when he finally got that outlier, that exceptional talent at wide receiver, you were able to see, no, he's a lot more than just a guy that's taking the check downs and running a system to perfection. He is one of the exceptional throwers in the league and one of the exceptional quarterbacks in the league.
Two of the best acquisitions ever, Tom Brady to the Bucs. The Bucs making that signing.
Yes.
The Patriots trading for Randy Moss, who took that offense to the next level. Number 3, let's get into the Super Bowls because that defines Brady more than anything. I think the game, and it's known as the Malcolm Butler game, of course, because of the goal line play. But you have to, if you were there, I was lucky enough to be at this game and remember watching Brady just catch fire in the second half, him and Gronk going off. And this, to me, was such an important Super Bowl because these were the two teams of the era, the greatest teams, the Legion of Boom Seahawks and the mighty Belichick and Brady Patriots. To steal that win with Brady playing outrageously well, it just built the legend.
Yeah, and I think it, speaks to what do I have to work with? I will maximize. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the show. Remember that, and you were there, so you saw it. It was 2 players. It was Gronk and it was Shane Vereen. And it's like, you know what? You're the Legion of Boom. That's how you think you're going to defend me. I am going to continue to take these checkdowns to Shane Vereen, and I will pick you apart down the field. And like you said, he did it under incredible pressure. I think they were down, up to 10 or 11 at one point in that second half.
I think they were down 24-14 in the third quarter.
So they were down 10 in the third quarter, and he was able to pick them apart, just going to those 2 options repeatedly to get that victory.
Number 2, yes, as I mentioned it, one of the great signings of all time. When Tom Brady was a free agent, he was coming off a down year by his standards with New England, and the general vibe, and this is why the Patriots in part decided to move on, is that he was finally in decline. He signs with Tampa. He has all these weapons around him. He has the right head coach in Bruce Arians, and they go through the season as a wild card entry and then rip through the playoffs, getting better week after week. Brady wins a Super Bowl at age 43 with a new team. Whoa.
They have to win at Washington, at New Orleans, and then at Lambeau. And remember, at some point in the middle of that season, we were talking about, Bill Belichick smiling, because remember they had kind of hit their lull, and then all of a sudden Brady hits that extra gear, and look, if you want to talk about, if your car has a 6-speed, it seemed like the Tom Brady car had a 7th gear, and that's just was the difference. And that's what happened, I think, in Tampa last year, was when the playoffs started. Remember, the Washington football team gave him the business in that first round. The Saints had played him really tough in those 2 regular season games. And then you got to go to Lambeau to take on Aaron Rodgers in a conference championship where very few teams win in the postseason, and knocked him off as well.
We need more time and perspective to truly wrap our heads around Tom Brady at 43 in his 21st year winning a Super Bowl after leaving Belichick.
Incredible.
But that's not number 1.
What number 1 is?
Number 1, what really cemented his legend and how we'll always remember him is the 28-3 game.
Yeah.
Another game I was lucky enough to be at, and watching it all unfold. They were dead in the water. Brady had thrown a pick 6 at that point to fall behind 28-3, and then launches the greatest comeback in the history of the NFL. Ends it with an overtime win after winning the coin toss, of course, going right down the field. And I think he was already in the conversation, or even the leader in the clubhouse in the greatest quarterback ever debate by this point in 2017. This, I think, is what said, okay, there's nobody that's even in his league.
And I think that's what kind of people forget is we tend to thrive and marinate in negativity, and so we want to mock Kyle Shanahan for blowing a 28-3 lead and not running the ball and taking more time off the clock. And that just overshadows, and it's hard to believe I'm talking about overshadowing Tom Brady, but someone's got to drive that comeback. Someone's got to be able to lead a sideline and say, yeah, we're down 24 points or whatever, 25 points. We're going to win the game. No big deal. We'll figure it out one drive at a time. And to me, that the reason why it's number 1 is it speaks to there's talent, there's circumstance, and then there's will and want to. And, you know, he had all of those things go his way, but I think the want and the drive and the competitive nature of his very being is what will separate him ultimately when we kind of write the Tom Brady story.
He's the GOAT.
He's the GOAT. All right, there you have it. The power rankings treatment for
That's from a Jets fan.
Brady. Still ahead. You got the rankings. What are those? Awards. It is award season. As the playoffs have come to a close, save Super Bowl 56, we will hand out teams and individuals that impacted power rankings the most. Back at Power Rankings, presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer, resetting what we've been discussing all show long. Our updated power ranking playoff bracket. Bengals, Rams will meet in Super Bowl 56. That is neither here nor there because we have something much more important than a Super Bowl champion and a team that will raise the Lombardi. It is our awards from the 2021/2022 campaign. The rankings, the Power Ranking Awards given out to a variety, a cornucopia of recipients, I guess representing the various participants that have come on this power ranking journey with us.
This is what it's all about.
Yes, it is.
Matt Money Smith, the idea that at the end of a long year, trophies are handed out to really celebrate the teams that won our hearts, broke our hearts, and changed us forever.
Yes, and a big thank you to our supporters at the network of Power Rankings for really going all out and getting us these sweet duds. Look at these beautiful duds for our ranking show. All right, let's get to it. Category number one, Dan Hanzus, judging panel of one, by the way. The rankings, most outraged fan base. And the nominees are the Philadelphia Eagles, the Tennessee Titans, and the Miami Dolphins.
The winner is the Tennessee Titans. Titans fans, you know you deserve this award because you've probably come after me on Twitter and said that I was a fool.
Clown.
For not putting them higher in the power rankings despite their good record, great record, despite their #1 seed. We don't need to pile on at this point. You know what happened once the rubber met the road in the postseason. The Titans were exposed as a team that was just a notch below. But the Titans fans, they didn't want to believe it, Money. They just didn't want to believe it.
They called for your job. They called out your
times.
integrity. They tried to take away your livelihood. And it is just that they are humiliated once again on Power Rankings for the last time on this campaign. All right. Award number 2, and the nominees are for the Nailed It team of 2021. I guess the team that you had figured out from the start all the way until the end. The nominees, Dan, are the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, and the Carolina Panthers.
All right. The winner is, should I keep doing the envelope? All right, the winner is the Buffalo Bills. Congratulations, Bills Mafia. I know it doesn't feel like a real victory considering what happened in the divisional playoffs. But this is a team that I was high on entering the season. They never left the top 10 money the entire year, even when
you always believed, Dan.
Things were rocky. And guess what? You could say now, oh, yeah, you really nailed it, Dan. The Bills haven't played a game in a week now. But that was a special Bills team that just ran into a Chiefs team playing at its apex. And I'm sure Josh Allen and the rest of the Bills money, when they were watching the second half of the AFC title game, they're like, where were those guys when we needed them?
I would like to say perhaps a little bit of salve for that open wound from the divisional round, winning the ranking as the team that was nailed it by Dan Andrews.
Is this better than a Lombardi trophy?
Of course it is.
Some people say no. I say this gold is gold.
That's what it is.
Metaphorically and otherwise.
Rankies, I should say, award number 3, the hardest team to rank, the greatest challenge from the 2021 season. And the nominees are the Dallas Cowboys, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Minnesota Vikings.
Very good category. And the winner is, yes, the Dallas Cowboys. Come take your trophy. I always, in the back of my mind, Money, when I was putting this team consistently in the top 10.
You wanted to believe.
Well, I felt like
it was the company X-Files style. I want to believe.
They were winning their division throughout the season. They were set up well for the playoffs. They had all these stars, and yet you had in the back of your mind, especially in the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season, that this team could end up doing exactly what they did come playoff team time, which was lay down in a big spot. They should have probably been in the 13 to 15 range. I had them up in the 7 to 8, and guess how it all played out. Should have been more in the middle of the pack, as it turned out.
That was a heck of a play right there. Could have been a ranky for that. All right, to our next category. The team that betrayed you.
Oh, I hate this category, Money.
Nominees are
betrayal,
Green Bay Packers, Indianapolis Colts, Los Angeles Chargers.
This is, Money, this is, to me, was the most difficult category to judge.
Because all 3 of these teams betrayed you.
They all betrayed me in
Repeatedly.
different ways. The Colts were a top 5 team. The Chargers, I said this will be the year the Chargers are different. But the winner is.
Oh, I think we know what the winner is then.
Well, it's the Green Bay Packers.
Oh, there you go.
And take your trophy, Aaron. And you were saying, oh, people were happy to see us lose. Well, dude, how about you don't lose in that game? I still can't believe that offense and Aaron Rodgers came up pretty small in that spot, and they betrayed me, not because I'm a Packers fan, but because in this power rankings exercise for the last 7 weeks of the season, I had them at number 1, and then to go 1 and done in the playoffs, it kind of ruins my career in some ways, Money. I feel like I'll never recover from what the Packers did to me. It's about me. Take your trophy.
You should call them the Hanzusies then. Listen, that's how it is. Thanks for leaving a window open for me to comment on that, jerk. Finally, the Rankies Award for Best Power Rankings Supporter. We had David Carr.
Oh, yes.
We had Coach Mooch, Steve Mariucci, and we had our dear friend Pat McAfee support us all the way through. 2 colleagues from NFL Network, 1 from outside the building. Which will win the Rankie as the best supporter of Power Rankings all season long?
This is obviously a no-brainer. It's like when Titanic won in '99.
Sure.
It's obviously Pat McAfee and his friends at the Pat McAfee Show.
Huzzah.
Always supported the show. Mooch and Carr consistently coming after the rankings, coming after money a lot with the GG commentary.
Thanks a lot. We worked together.
But McAfee and friends, they were a champion of the Power rankings.
Foxy, Diggs, Boston Kana, the whole crew. Vito, we love all of you. Thank you for your support all season long.
This is in the mail.
This one's for you. And when we say it's in the mail, it's not. It's a figurative saying. All right, those, your Rankies for the 2021 Playoff 2022 campaign. When we return,
Goosebumps.
we look back at the playoffs. How did we end up with the Bengals and the Rams participating in Super Bowl 56? We'll look at the 10 most pivotal plays of the playoffs next. And we are back on Power Rankings presented by the long-lasting power of Energizer. Still going. Awfully excited after our rankings, and we had to get out and wardrobe change and all of that. So pardon my pause at the beginning of this segment, but we have got another list for you to consume. Dan, we are getting into our top 10 plays of the 2022 playoff run following the 2021 season.
Isn't it one of the great seasons ever?
I think it's the best.
Yeah.
I think it is the absolute best. I will get us started with number 10. And you know what? We're coming off the Tom Brady retirement, so why not highlight the fact this man was down 27-3. This is his final touchdown pass of that storied 22-year career to Mike Evans. They end up tying this game. Alas, the defense doesn't blitz on a cover zero blitz, and they lose to the Rams. But rarely do players get to go out on top. Tom Brady goes out on top, leading the league in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and tying this game up in the final moments and nearly advancing to the championship.
Beating Jalen Ramsey, another
Yes,
potential future Hall of Famer. Number 9. Yes, the Los Angeles Rams. You have to remember, when this wild card game takes place on a Monday night, the Rams are still licking their wounds after that tough Week 18 loss to the Niners. What they do, they detonate Kyler Murray and company in this game, a blowout that never feels even competitive. I think this gave them a lot of confidence, money, and that's why it's number 9.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, they ended up hosting the NFC Championship game. We talked about what a brutal loss that was in Week 18 to the 49ers. Let's get to number 8. And our number 8 play is,
Oh, yeah.
Mike McCarthy, would you just acknowledge you blew it?
Everybody acknowledged
blew it. Talk about the refs cheating you out of this. This was a terrible play call. It was a terrible execution by Dak. It was terrible execution by the center from taking the ball from him in the first place and not giving it to the official. And you never had a shot at that Hail Mary pass to gain victory. Look, the odds were against you anyway. But the 49ers make it to the championship round courtesy of a Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy.
Perfect encapsulation of that Cowboys team. Number 7, Jaquiski Tartt. This game was tied at 17-17, and that drop sustained a drive that turned into the winning field goal.
That became the tying field goal, if I remember right, because that was at the 10-minute mark of the fourth quarter.
Well, whatever it was
3 points.
A huge swing in the game, and Tartt has to live with that, and he owned up to it after the game. You got to take advantage of the moments, and he didn't.
And you know what?
Feel bad.
He throws that interception, and things change for Sean McVay and how much confidence he got in Matthew Stafford after throwing a second. All right, we got it over. Your number 6 play. Well, look, I mean, this is the touchdown. The only touchdown the 49ers scored in this game. They only needed 13 points. They block a field goal. They block a punt. Special teams matter. And the reason they made it to the NFC Championship game was because of their exceptional special teams play.
Number 5, Von Bell intercepts Patrick Mahomes. Sets up the game-winning field goal in overtime. This was, yes, after the Chiefs won the coin toss, you could have said, oh, they're going to win again. They're going to go right down the field. But no, this was a different game than the Buffalo game. Cincinnati's defense was balling out for the last 2 quarters and OT, and this set up the game winner. Unbelievable.
And a perfectly defensed pass there. My goodness, that thing was beautiful to tip it to Von Bell. All right, number 4. I think this would be my number 1 if I was allowed to make the list, but I wasn't.
But you're not.
4th and 13, and Josh Allen gets a 27-yard touchdown throw. The 2-point conversion right after it was exceptional as well. This was arguably the greatest playoff game I've ever watched, and this to me was my favorite play from it. So sorry, Bills fans, but this was freaking awesome on a 4th and 13.
Yep, and let's double up on that game for number 3 because I think it's one of the best games ever. Travis Kelce, it's the 13 seconds game, and it was 13 seconds to play. He got a 19-yard gain, Tyreek Hill, but somehow Kelce gets the free release, gets him into field goal range. Butker kicks the field goal to send it into OT, and the rest is history. Buffalo will forever rue not having a different scheme there. Number 2, money.
Number 2, it's hard to believe we have 2 more plays, right? But how about this? Number 2, Cooper Kupp from Matthew Stafford. The zero blitz that was not a blitz. Matthew Stafford recognizes it. They called it the love of the game route. All he was supposed to do was clear it out for the underneath crosser. Instead, he flashes open. Stafford delivers a perfect ball, and what looked to be the Rams collapsing yet again, and the Bucs winning in overtime. They kick the game-winning field goal, and now they're in Super Bowl 56.
And almost all these highlights, with the exception of one, are from 2 weeks of football.
Crazy.
Number 1.
Number 1.
And this kind of tells the story of the Cincinnati Bengals. This is the 52-yard field goal by Evan McPherson to send
good from 60.
Cincinnati to the AFC title game, and his legend was born when we learned after the game He looked over to a teammate and said, I guess we're about to go to the AFC Championship game. The kid 4 years ago was kicking for a high school in Alabama. Alabama!
They drafted a kicker in the 5th round, and he's going to break the record for most field goals in a postseason
12 for 12
in his rookie year. Kickers, this is the man that authors the kicker rankings, by the way, so no surprise. He's the one that put the list together, and a kicker is at number 1.
Sorry.
When we return, we have challenge flags to throw, some things we would like to see come Super Bowl 56. We will issue the challenge. Hopefully those being challenged will accept our challenges. Next.
It's time for the most exciting week of the year, Super Bowl week, and NFL Network is here for it.
You can't not be hyped for this.
Out in front, he's going to go all the way.
Kicking off with Super Bowl opening night.
Oh, my goodness.
Over 90 hours of live coverage.
Big upset pick, here we go.
With expert analysis from the legends who lived it.
You gotta be able to run the ball.
And live reports from the Rams and Bengals.
This is just insane.
All leading up to the biggest game day of the year.
These are about moments that determine history.
And Super Bowl 56 isn't over until the stars of the big game join Game Day Final.
You don't feel pressure if you're prepared.
NFL Network, here for Super Bowl week.
All right, we wrap it up here on Power Rankings with our challenge flags. We issue a challenge. We hope they are accepted by the parties being challenged. Dan, where would you like to start?
Well, we only have 2 more weeks to hit the camera with this, so let's see. Here we go. Nope. I challenge.
Yeah, that was like that Matt Gay field goal in Tampa.
Exactly.
It's like 30 yards short.
No, the challenge goes out to the rest of society. The city of Cincinnati announced that Monday after the Super Bowl, no school. Let's make this uniform across the country.
Love it.
No school,
no
work either. Let's just calm down with the work in general, society, and just let Super Bowl Monday be a true recovery day from the biggest party day of the year.
100%. It's a national holiday.
Sure.
We accepted. Everybody
Football,
puts their eyeballs on
America.
that TV. This is a national pastime, the #1 entertainment product in all the land. Why not give us Monday off? My challenge flag, this is a bit of a stretch, but you know what? I'm issuing it to Matthew Stafford. Don't let Joe Burrow be the only king of swag. Look at this guy and the way he rolls in. And I know you got to be true to yourself, and authenticity is important as a leader. And this is what Joe Burrow is and who he is, and he's being true to himself. But man, imagine if Matthew Stafford. How about a nice seersucker suit representing his past in the fine state of
Joe
Georgia?
Burrow's like, what if Macaulay
Or-
Culkin grew up and was the coolest looking guy in the world?
What if Matt Stafford put on a bolo tie and a big 20-gallon hat and embraced his Texas roots? That's my challenge. Thanks for watching Power Rankings. Congratulations, Tom Brady. Going to be a whole lot more of that right here next.